friends. Today I got up early because I wanted to make some linguica scones for breakfast, so I figure why not make a video and show how I make it. They're very easy to make, and you can make them quite a bit of amount and keep it in the freezer and then just use it as you need, or take it out as much as you need. So let's get started. I'm going to show you how I make mine. Here we go. And here I have 8 cups of all-purpose flour. And to it, I'm going to add 4 teaspoons of baking powder. 2, 3, 4. And then 4 teaspoons of kosher salt. 1, 2, 3, 4. I am tripling the amount that I'm usually making. I'm going to put a little bit of black pepper, maybe let's say about a ½ teaspoon of black pepper. And I'm going to mix all this together. With the linguica scones, you can substitute. If you don't want linguica, you can put chouriço, or you can put the bacon. It's also good. In here I have two links of the linguica that I put it in my food processor and grinded. So I'm gonna put that in too. That's gonna be part of my butter to make them kind of nice and soft. I already made 1 batch, but I made gluten-free. And in here I have 2 cubes of butter that I shredded with my box grater to grate the cheese. Make sure the butter is real cold, and then shred it, and it makes it easy to mix it. So you don't have to use the pastry cutter, which is this. If you cut it into, then you would need to use this, but because I shredded, I don't have to. So, and I'm gonna use my hands, they're all clean, and that way I don't have to use that big pastry cutter. But if you don't have a box grater, or you don't have it, you can do without it. And what I'm looking is kind of just like the little pieces look like little piece size in the flour. So you kind of mix all this, and sometimes you might find a little bigger pieces of butter. You cut them. You don't want to work the butter too much because you want the butter to stay cold. So you don't want to be working too much this. Okay. In here I have some cheddar cheese. I had white cheddar cheese, but if you want, you can use charred cheddar cheese, any cheese. I have a cup. So I'm gonna put that in too. These are so good in the morning with some eggs. And you got everything in here. You got the linguica, you got the bread. So they're good. Put a fried egg and put it in the middle. And here I have 3 cups of water. Of milk. Cups of water. 3 cups of milk. Cold milk. You want to be cold. You want all this to stay cold. I'm gonna put 3. I think it might be fine, but we'll see. I make it now, like I said, I'm triple the batch that I usually make. I don't usually make this much, but I'm gonna go see my son this weekend, so I figure, well, I'll take some of this. The girls like this, and he likes it too. So now I'm gonna use my hands because we needed to kind of combine all this kind of together, and what we're doing is kind of just grabbing and pushing it down so all the flour gets absorbed into the milk. It might need a little bit more of milk. So we'll see. You don't want them too soft, but then you don't want them too hard, because if they're too soft, then they're hard to shave. I mean, they're still good, but then if they're too hard, they become too chewy. So anyway, I'm gonna get a little bit more milk because I think it needs a little bit more. I'm gonna try half a cup, another half a cup of milk. Like I said, I already did one batch of gluten-free. So if you do gluten-free, it's kind of the same thing. Of course, just use the different flour, but the consistency of the milk, it's less amount of milk than the regular flour. And that's probably why I was short, because I was thinking I was doing the gluten-free still. So you kind of want it a little bit sticky, but not too much. That's just right. So I put about 3.5 cups of flour. So now I'm going to shape this, put it in a flour board and roll it, and then cut it. And then you can make this ahead of time. Let's say you make this last night, and then keep it in the fridge, and then in the morning you just bake it. So if you don't want to get up early like I did, you can just bake it and be done. Okay, I washed my hands. Now I'm going to put some flour in my counter, and I'm going to divide this in two so it makes it easy to work. So you kind of just want to roll it in flour so it won't stick when you're rolling. I got my rolling pin, and I'm going to roll it into a rectangle. Now, you can divide this into 4 pieces. That's sometimes what I do, and maybe that's what I should have done, but you divide it into 4 pieces and you make it into a disc, and it makes, if you want to make even, kind of an even rolls of the scones, and then you just cut it into 4s like you're cutting a pizza. That's usually what I do when I do for my customers. When I do for my customers, I do it that way. That way it's kind of, you know, it's an even scone. And you don't want them too thin. I would say probably about an inch, half an inch, the lowest, but I like my scones a little thick, because what it does, because it has all that butter, it's gonna have these little pockets inside, and it has that linguica in that butter. It is so good. I'll say, if you make this, you won't eat just one. So I'm using my bench scraper and cutting, but if you don't have a bench scraper, you can use a knife. And again, I'm not measuring this. This is just for us for home. If it was for my customers, I would try to make them as even as possible. And like I said, and maybe I'll do those two in round discs so you kind of get an idea. But that's what you do. Now, let's say you don't want to do this shape. You can easily use, make them into little discs and bake them in round discs. So you don't have to do, and again, like I said, this is linguiça. You can use chouriço. I did not cook my linguiça. I took the casing out. I did take the casing out of my linguiça, but I did not cook it. So I'm gonna get a cookie sheet and I'm gonna, okay, I have this one. I'm gonna show you how I do into a disc. So I shape it into a little round and just keep working your way and kind of just bringing it together. And like I said, you will kind of want it an even, try to make as even as possible of a disc, and keep pushing it in and working. So anyway, then I'm gonna use my bench scraper and cut it in half. Cut it in half the other way. And then I cut it into triangles. This way, you kind of get a more even scone. And two is because they're the same size, they're gonna bake more even in the oven. So let's say you want this for in the morning. You do all this the night before. Put it in a cookie sheet, cover with plastic. Cover it good with plastic because you don't want it to dry out. And then you bake it in the morning. Okay, now I have some egg and water, and I'm gonna do an egg wash over them. Like if some of them you have too much flour, what I usually do, I go with a dry brush, and you kind of want to brush that flour out. That's when I put too much flour. And these will grow, so give them space. They all want their space. So, and I'm gonna egg wash all these, and then I'm gonna bake them for about 18 minutes or until they're a little golden, and you can see they've have little pockets. They've raised up a little bit, and they look all even, all golden throughout. You don't have to make linguiça. You can make chouriço. You can make bacon. Another thing that I've done, I didn't do in this one, but you can add herbs to it. So in this, I could add some chives, or I could add some green onions. They're delicious too. Add a little bit of green onions. You can add some thyme, fresh or dry thyme, oregano. So it's a variety. So you can try it out, experiment different ways, and see what your family likes most, or likes better, should I say, and then make it. But this is always a hit. My customers all love this. So I'm gonna put this in the oven, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what they look like at the end. I'm done with baking all my scones, and here you have it. And in here, there's this one right here. See all those little pockets right there? That's exactly what you want. You want it to form those little pockets, and that means that it's flaky, and it's so good. It's all that little linguiça, the fat of the linguiça and the butter in there. So you can eat one of these just like this with a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, or you can slice them and use them for a sandwich. You can put salami and cheese. So anyway, so I just wanted to show you my final product. It took me about 20 minutes at 400 to cook all of them. To cook, you know, the pan, one pan. Until next time, I hope you enjoyed this short video of Linguica scones my way. Have a good day. Bye.